Shalom, everybody. I'm just going to be talking about some things that I think might be taken wrong by the majority of the people, basically. And I may be wrong on something. That's fine. At least I'm okay with being wrong and rethinking if I get new evidence. But, you know, what my dream that I recently talked about has really shown me, and dealing with people, of course, is that the truther community isn't about truth anymore. And, some would say there just never was a truth community. Very well could be. There's only a few who actually love the truth. The gate is narrow. Only a few find it. There's only a few who actually want to know the truth, and most people want to stay with their lives because they're still stuck in sin, as I've been speaking about. In 2 Thessalonians 2, we find out that, the great delusion is for those who want to believe a lie, because they believe not the truth and had pleasure in unrighteousness. So what started this whole idea of doing a video on this was because I saw somebody posting about this video that talks about this article in the New York Times. At first I wanted to make sure that it was a legitimate article, as I've spoken of in the past with the truther community. I wanted to actually find out if this was true, if it was in the New York Times. And so I went to the New York Times website, and I found out that this article is there. There's an abstract, you can purchase it. Somebody also did a video on the New York Times being pledged to the Jews, the New World Order. So yeah, it's a legitimate article. This is just so that we can read it. And basically, it's talking about after 1940, the Jews had been pledged to by Arthur Greenwood, member without portfolio in the British War Cabinet, that when victory was achieved, an effort would be made to found a new world order based on the ideals of justice and peace. I noticed in my searching information up on this article that a few of these people are using it to also say that Hitler was right in destroying the Jews at the Holocaust. There's many people who are Holocaust deniers, that it didn't even happen. I'm not going to get into all those things, but I believe there is a concerted effort to get people to hate Jews. And there's a reason for that. And that's biblical. But I was reminded of this New World Order idea, and basically our Father is the one who's putting together the New World Order. As I spoke about in my last video from the Out of the Darkness into the Light podcast, our Father made people stupid. He made his own people stupid, basically. He spiritually blinded them. That's why it says blinded by the light in the title here. He blinded them for a purpose. He's going to astound them and the world. If he's going to astound them and the world, that means the majority of everybody on earth is going to be shocked and have no clue where it happened from, how did it happen. The grand delusion is going to be grand. And I think that people are already under that in some ways, and that hating Jews is part of that. I previously did a video on, who are the people who say they are Jews but do lie, because it's concerning the Christians, and the Christians don't even know it. They're just pointing their fingers at the Jews. But Revelation was written when everybody who was a follower of our Messiah was actually a Jew. They were actually Jewish. They were going to the synagogues on the Sabbath, and They were called Hebrew Christians for a while by some people, but that's because they were still considered Hebrew. So Christianity, when it got rid of the Hebrew and went to Constantinian Christianity, they lost the fact that they were supposed to be Jewish. They consider themselves the bride of Christ, and Christ was from the line of Judah. So Christ was a Jew, and they were supposed to be married to a Jew, which would make them Jewish for marriage. And they just sort of ignore that. They think they're Christian. They say they're from Christ. They say they're the bride of Christ. They say they're Jewish, but they're not really. They're lying to you. You know, in the genealogy, we see that Rahab is a prostitute from Canaan, but she got married into the Jewish line after she helped them out with Jericho. And so, you know, they were considered a part, you know, they were considered Hebrew at that point because Hebrew means to cross over, and they crossed over from their, you know, Gentile ways into the way of our Father, you know, following his commandments. So we see that is mentioned in the genealogy, and that we are supposed to be considered Jewish. I mean, that's sort of carried over into some people where they think they're spiritual Israelites, but they just sort of replace the Jews. You know, we have the line of Ephraim and the line of Judah, and they're supposed to become one. There's two separate groups there. You know, the Israelites were not all Jews, not all Jews at all, but all Jews are Israelites, but not all Israelites are Jews. And anyway, most people just sort of ignore this stuff, but they don't ignore the fact that they're supposed to have another Exodus. They believe they're going to have another Exodus. They don't realize that they need another Moses to get them out in an Exodus style out of slavery, because they don't really realize that they're still in slavery. And of course, in that video, they also talked about in the podcast that, you know, we're supposed to be judged. He's going to judge us, and we're supposed to be judged by our works also. And in 1 Peter 4, it talks about how judgment begins with the house of God, or God's people, his household. So we're supposed to be judged, but we're going to be judged first, and that's sort of what the Exodus is about. He gets the people out of spiritual Egypt, and then he judges them, and basically they're going to be told that they have to clean up their act. And most people are not really understanding that. They can't hear that. I've been talking about this, you know, for the past year or so, where it tells us that we're supposed to stop sinning. And that is what frees us. The Ten Commandments was freeing them from the spiritual bondage that they had in Egypt. And they were given the Ten Commandments. It was to free them. Christianity, in general, looks at the Ten Commandments and says, we don't need that anymore. We have Jesus. Supposedly they think Jesus freed them, and that, you know, our Father was putting them into more bondage with the Ten Commandments. But that's, you know, Paulinity, of course. Where he said that the commandments were a curse or something. Yeah, it's not a curse. That was actually freeing them from being spiritual slaves to sin. You may be wondering where I came up with this crazy idea that our Father is bringing the New World Order together. It's from Zephaniah 3. I'll just read the chapter here, starting with the judgment on Jerusalem. Woe to her that is filthy and polluted, to the oppressing city. She obeyed not the voice, she received not correction, she trusted not in Yahweh, she drew not near to her God. It's sort of what I was saying about, you know, judgment begins with us first, judging them. Her princes within her are roaring lions, her judges are evening wolves, they gnaw not the bones till the morrow. Her prophets are light and treacherous persons, her priests have polluted the sanctuary, they have done violence to the law. Sounds like Paul. The just Yahweh is in the midst thereof. He will not do iniquity. Every morning doth he bring his judgment to light. He faileth not. But the unjust knoweth no shame. I have cut off the nations, their towers are desolate. I made the streets waste, that none passeth by. Their cities are destroyed, so that there is no man, that there is none inhabitant. I said, Surely thou wilt fear me, thou wilt receive instruction, so their dwelling should not be cut off. Howsoever I punished them, but they rose early and corrupted all their doings. Therefore wait ye upon me, saith Yahweh, until the day that I rise up to the prey, for my determination is to gather the nations, that I may assemble the kingdoms, to pour upon them mine indignation, even all my fierce anger, for all the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy. So he was saying that every morning he's trying to get people to see the light. Wake up, be judged. If you can see that there's a bunch of guillotines in the United States, and you might want to, pay attention to that. Or if you can see that your president is bringing in Muslims overnight in planes, in the secret, to fill up your streets so that, that they can release them upon the earth. And if you can see that, they're basically brainwashing your children in school, and you don't, think to yourself, maybe we should stop this. Maybe we should get a new government. Maybe we should do something. Maybe we should clean up our act. Don't you think our Father might be punishing us, since he is the one who elects all the kings all over the world? Don't you think that maybe if he put that president over us, that it's a judgment on us, that he's actually judging us, and we're in slavery to what some people called Barack Obama a pharaoh, as if he had been cloned? Don't you think that might be a judgment? Maybe you want to stop sinning? But no, they don't receive judgment. They just keep waking up and doing more worse and worse stuff. They know no shame. They won't stop sinning. Therefore, wait upon our Father, because one day he will rise up, because his determination is to gather all the nations, to assemble all the kingdoms. Sounds like the New World Order with the one world government, doesn't it? He's gathering them all to pour upon them his indignation and his fierce anger. He's the one who's in charge of the New World Order coming together. I don't understand why people are always upset about this New World Order. Hey, the New World Order is coming. Don't you think that's a judgment? Our Father has put this New World Order upon the earth because he's upset that we're sinning and know no shame. Continuing on, verse 9. For then will I turn to the people of pure language, that they may call upon the name of Yahweh to serve him with one consent. Sounds like the One World Religion. From beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, my suppliants, even the daughter of my dispersed, shall bring mine offering. In that day shalt thou not be ashamed for all thy doings, wherein thou hast transgressed against me. For then I will take away out of the midst of thee them that rejoice in thy pride, and thou shalt no more be haughty because of my holy mountain. I will also leave in the midst of thee an afflicted and poor people, and they shall trust in the name of Yahweh. The remnant of Israel shall not do iniquity, nor speak lies, neither shall a deceitful tongue be found in their mouth, for they shall feed and lie down, and none shall make them afraid. I think that means that they're going to be eating and not have to worry about having food. They're not going to be afraid because they're following our Father's commandments. I believe we are the remnant coming together. There's more of us, but, that's what he's doing. He's waking people up. All right. Sing, O daughter of Zion. Shout, O Israel. Be glad and rejoice with all the heart, O daughter of Jerusalem. Yahweh hath taken away thy judgments. He hath cast out thine enemy, the king of Israel. Even Yahweh is in the midst of thee. Thou shalt not see evil any more. In that day it shall be said to Jerusalem, Fear not, and to Zion, Let not thine hands be slack. Yahweh thy God is in the midst of thee, is mighty, he will save, he will rejoice over thee with joy, he will rest in his love, he will joy over thee with singing. I will gather them that are sorrowful for the solemn assembly, who are of thee, to whom the reproach of it was a burden. Behold, at that time I will undo all that afflict thee, And I will save her that halteth, and gather her that was driven out. And I will get them praise and fame in every land where they have been put to shame. At that time will I bring you again, even in the time that I gather you. For I will make you a name and a praise among all people of the earth, when I turn back your captivity before your eyes, saith Yahweh. So I believe that is what is happening. We are leading up to it. I believe that is what is getting ready to occur, the new Exodus. Another good chapter to look at would be Ezekiel 36, where it talks about Israel profaning our Father's name. And the way you profane our Father's name is to come in His name and then go around sinning. And so what they would do is they would come around telling people that they had been the people of Yahweh, and then they went forth in the land and they profaned His name because they were doing all this, sinful behaviors. And they were in the land of the heathen, and so the heathen got mad at Yahweh, which is why we see a bunch of people who say Yahweh of the Bible is the demiurge or evil, because Israel was profaning His name. They were adding extra laws, man-made doctrines, and they were attributing things like the sacrifices of animals to Yahweh, even though it was Moloch that was who they were actually sacrificing to. So they profaned His name, and He had pity for His holy name, which the house of Israel had profaned among the heathen, wherever they went. So He says, therefore say unto the house of Israel, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, I do not this for your sakes, O house of Israel, but for mine holy name's sake, which ye have profaned among the heathen whither you went. And I will sanctify my great name, which has been profaned among the heathen, which ye have profaned in the midst of them. And the heathen shall know that I am Yahweh, saith the Lord Yahweh, when I shall be sanctified in you before their eyes. Who is He talking about? Because there's so many people out there who are trying to say that the Jews are evil and that they're never going to be saved, that, the church, Christianity, replaced the Jews and all that. He's talking about the Jews, the Israelites. He's talking about all of them, everybody who was profaning His name, who said they came in His name. He's not going to save them, and that's including everybody that says that they come in His name, which includes Christians. Muslims come in His name too, supposedly. They all have the same God of Abraham, right? So they all claim Yahweh as their God. And the Jews, all three Abrahamic religions claim Him as their God. And He's saying He's not going to cleanse them for their sake. He's cleansing them for His sake, for His holy, set-apart name. And name means character. It's not about what you call Him. It's about His character. They were coming in His character, supposedly, and they were sinning, so they were taking His name in vain. All three Abrahamic religions are taking His name in vain when they sin. That's why the remnant are those who are not sinning. So, He's going to take those people and sanctify them before the heathen's eyes, before those atheists' eyes. They're going to be looking at this group of people that said they came in the name of Yahweh, and they were sinning their whole lives, and these atheists are going to look at them and be like, wow, they were actually worshiping the true God, and we had no idea. He's really taken them to task, because judgment begins at the house of God, the Elohim. So He says, for I will take you from among the heathen, and gather you out of all the countries, and bring you into your own land. And then will I sprinkle clean water upon you, and ye shall be clean from all your filthiness and from all your idols, will I cleanse you. A new heart also will I give you, and a new spirit will I put within you. And I will take away the stony heart out of your flesh, and I will give you a heart of flesh. And I will put my spirit within you, and cause you to walk in my statutes. And ye shall keep my judgments, and do them. And ye shall dwell in the land that I gave to your fathers. Your fathers. I mean, this isn't just a spiritual Christianity, spiritual Israel, supposedly. It's the people who actually had their fathers that were dwelling in that land. And ye shall be my people, and I will be your God. I will also save you from all your uncleanliness, and will call for the corn, and will increase it, and lay no famine upon you. And I will multiply the fruit of the tree, and of the increase of the field, that ye shall receive no more reproach of famine among the heathen. Then shall ye remember your own evil ways, and your doings that were not good, and shall loathe yourselves in your own sight for your iniquities and for your abominations. Not for your sakes do I do this, saith the Lord Yahweh. Be it known unto you, be ashamed and confounded for your own ways, O house of Israel. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, in that day that I shall have cleansed you from all your iniquities, I will also cause you to dwell in the cities, and the wastes shall be builded, and the desolate land shall be tilled, whereas it lay desolate in the sight of all that passed by. And they shall say, this land that was desolate is become like the Garden of Eden, and the waste and desolate and ruined cities are become fenced, and are inhabited. And then the heathen that are left round about you shall know that I, Yahweh, build the ruined places and plant that what was desolate. I, Yahweh, have spoken it, and I will do it. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, I will yet for this be inquired of by the house of Israel, to do it for them. I will increase them with men like flock, as the holy flock, as the flock of Jerusalem in her solemn feasts. So shall waste cities be filled with flocks of men, and they shall know that I am Yahweh. So I believe that our Father is going to judge his household, these people. What's coming is a judgment upon these people. The New World Order was put together by our Father to judge these people. And then they're going to be so burdened that they will finally turn to him and start walking in the statutes and keeping the judgments, doing them, actually walking without sin. And since I'm doing a video on a bunch of things that I think the majority of Christianity has wrong, I may as well talk about Isaiah 53. I don't think this is about Yahushua, our Messiah. I don't think that it is specifically about him. Basically, if you actually study the context, it's about Israel. And Israel is the suffering servant. And I did a post on this previously, which I can paste in below in the comment section. But there's a lot of things here that just are not about him. Basically, how everybody is despising him. He has despised and rejected of men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. Well, that's not what we see. We see that he is actually accepted by thousands upon thousands, and now millions of people are accepting him, and not quite the true him, but they think they accept him. And, he wasn't despised like that. They were letting him be in Jerusalem. It wasn't until he started getting rid of the animals at the temple that they decided to kill him. Which of course is because I believe he was there to stop the sacrificing. But also it says here that he has children. Verse 10, Yet it pleased Yahweh to bruise him, he hath put him to grief. When thou shalt make his soul an offering for sin, he shall see his seed, he shall prolong his days, and the pleasure of Yahweh shall prosper in his hand. So we'll look at the word seed there. Described as offspring in this one. It's Zerah, and it means descendants or children, family. intercourse. This is not about Yehoshua unless Yehoshua had children. And so, mainstream Christianity just doesn't look at the context for the most part here. But when you read this chapter and you think of Israel as the suffering servant, then it gets interesting. It says, "Who hath believed our report, and to whom is the arm of Yahweh revealed? For he shall grow up before him as a tender plant, and as a root out of the dry ground. He hath no form nor comeliness, and when we shall see him, there is no beauty that we should desire him." So Israel, that Yahweh is growing up, the plant that may represent us, the righteous branches that are supposed to be coming from the vine, which is Yehoshua. But the plant, with all the flowers, it's just everything that, Yahweh is the gardener. Yehoshua said, "I am the vine and my Father is the gardener." So Yahweh is the one growing this plant. There's a vine, and then there are branches, and we are the branches that go through the vine. And the vine is, the Torah, basically. I know there's a lot of people who say that Yehoshua is the Torah, the Messiah is the Torah. Yes, he walked out the Torah. Okay, so the plant is the Torah, and those who abide in the Torah are the righteous branches, and the righteous branches are bearing fruit. So this is all of Israel. All of them. And the Judah and Ephraim are put together, and they're all supposed to grow out with branches and fruit. All right. But at first, he hath no form nor comeliness. And when we shall see him, there is no beauty that we should desire him. Israel in general was not desired. Most people are very upset with Israel in general. He is despised and rejected of men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. And we hid, as it were, our faces from him. He was despised, and we esteemed him not. Now this, I believe, this plant, the righteous servant, the plant, is concerning those who are keeping the commandments of our Father. It is not concerning those who are not keeping the commandments of our Father, which, most people think of the land of Israel and the people there that they call the fake Jews. They don't think of them as actually keeping the commandments of our Father, since they are not treating people as they would want to be treated. We're talking about the plant, the righteous servant of the branches. The people who are bearing fruit for him are those who are keeping his commandments. And those who are keeping his commandments are rejected. And the majority of people hide their faces from those people. They despise them. They don't esteem them. I can see that clearly when I started talking about the Trinity being false. I had people despising me, just hating me. They had to do videos about me and warn people that I was a witch for some reason. They wanted to falsely accuse me. They hated me. They falsely accused Yehoshua. Yes, he's one of us. He's the vine. But it's not just about him. This is about the whole state of being, of keeping the commandments of our Father. The world hates those who keep the commandments of our Father. Surely he hath borne our griefs and carried our sorrows, yet we did esteem him stricken, smitten of God, and afflicted. But he was wounded because of our transgressions, he was bruised because of our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed. Well, I thought that was interesting, because we are supposed to be praying. The saints in Revelation 8 are those who offer prayers. The prayers of the saints are going on the golden altar, which is before the throne, and the smoke of the incense which came from the prayers of the saints ascended up before God, Yahweh, out of the angel's hands, and the angel took the censer, filled it with fire of the altar, and cast it into the earth. And there were voices and thunderings and lightnings and an earthquake. This is Also speaking about, whether it's literal or not, this is also speaking about the fact that we are praying for people and our prayers are being heard and answered upon those people. All we like sheep have gone astray, we have turned every one to his own way, and Yahweh hath laid on him the iniquity of us all. He was oppressed and he was afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth. He is brought as a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before her shearers is dumb, so he openeth not his mouth, as we are to do. I have learned that. It's very difficult, but we have to learn how to do that, to be sheep. To not always open our mouth and just take it, and just understand that those people are spiritually blinded, and what they are accusing us of falsely is not true, and we just let our Father justify us. We don't do it ourselves, just like YHWH just stood there and took it. He was taken from prison and from judgment, and who shall declare his generation? For he was cut off out of the land of the living. For the transgression because of my people was he stricken. The people were transgressing against him, and so they killed him, and so he was taken out of the land of the living. And he made his grave with the wicked and with the rich in his death, because he had done no violence, neither was any deceit in his mouth. Yet it pleased Yahweh to bruise him. He hath put him to grief. When thou shalt make his soul an offering for sin, he shall see his seed, descendants. He shall prolong his days, and the pleasure of Yahweh shall prosper in his hand. So the servant, the branches, are continually having seeds and putting forth more and more fruit, more and more offspring that grow more and more fruit themselves. That is prospering. It's those who are keeping our Father's commandments. We have seed. All right. He shall see the travail of his soul, and shall be satisfied. By his knowledge shall my righteous servant justify many, for he shall bear their iniquities. Therefore will I divide him a portion with the great, and he shall divide the spoil with the strong, because he hath poured out his soul unto death, and he was numbered with the transgressors, and he bare the sin of many, and made intercession for the transgressors. Again, we make intercession. The saints are praying for them to be convicted and to stop sinning. But when we look at this in context, we can understand that this is the suffering servant Israel. It is not about one person, just one person. It's not, because if it is, then YHWH had children, and you're free to believe that. I don't know. He may have, but I'm not going to go there. We don't have enough information personally to figure that one out. But, our Father said he's going to raise up righteous branches, and that does seem to be us, because YHWH told us we were the branches when we're keeping our Father's commandments, when we're staying in Christ, in the anointed. We are the righteous branches. So, it makes more sense that this tender plant is Israel, that he's growing together. All of us, when we are keeping the commandments, are a part of Israel. But those who don't keep the commandments are thrown into the fire of affliction, so that they will get convicted and repent, be purified, all that, and then they can get back, put back onto the branches, grafted in to the same plant once again. But I do believe this plant is the suffering servant is only those who are keeping the commandments, and those who are keeping the commandments have to suffer as Christ suffered. So that again just sort of points back to this whole group is the plant. It is the suffering servant. You will find that the word he is used for Israel, at other times in Scripture. Doesn't necessarily have to be a singular person. So I'll leave links below to information on that if you've never heard this before. And I'll start talking about the Noahide laws next. Okay, the Noahide laws. The 7 laws of Noah, also referred to as the Noahide laws, are a set of imperatives which, according to the Talmud, were given by God as a binding set of laws for the children of Noah, that is, all of humanity. Since everybody else was wiped out, Noah coming out of the flood, must have birthed the rest of humanity, basically, from his family. Accordingly, any non-Jew who adheres to these laws because they were given by Moses is regarded as a righteous Gentile and assured a place in the world to come, the final reward for the righteous. The 7 Noahide laws, as traditionally enumerated, are the following. 1. Do not deny our Elohim. 2. Do not blaspheme him. 3. Do not murder. 4. Do not engage in illicit sexual relations. 5. Do not steal. 6. Do not eat from a live animal. 7. Establish courts or a legal system to ensure obedience to said laws. According to the Talmud, the rabbis agree that the 7 laws were given to the sons of Noah. However, they disagree on precisely which laws were given to Adam and Eve. 6 of the 7 laws are exegetically derived from passages in Genesis, with the 7th being the establishing of the courts. Since in Revelation it talks about people, dying by the sword and everything, people are afraid of decapitation in these days. The punishment here it talks about in practice, Jewish law makes it very difficult to apply the death penalty. No record exists of a Gentile having been put to death for violating the 7 laws. Some of the categories of capital punishment recorded in the Talmud are recorded as having never been carried out. It is thought that the rabbis included discussion of them in anticipation of the coming Messianic age. And of course we know that the Messianic age that is to come is going to be coming, and probably sooner than later. Don't know when, no dates, but it's something to think about. And the reason that I bring this up is because there are lots of people who tend to link to websites like these about the Noahide laws and decapitation. They're basically fear porn. It talks about how if you confess that Jesus is Lord, you will be decapitated if these Noahide laws get put into effect. And I have to say that just because you're Lord doesn't mean that you are God, the Creator. But there are lots of people who think the word Lord means Yahweh, and it doesn't. There's, the word the Lord in all caps in the Old Testament refers to Yahweh, but of course it was a translation issue of them changing his name into the Lord. And in the New Testament, it talks about Jesus as Lord, lowercase l. There's a difference, but they don't want you to know that there's a difference. So that's part of, the whole Trinitarian translation of the scriptures to make people confused. But if you read this website, you will see that there's a lot of fear porn. Basically, they're trying to get people to think that these Noahide laws are evil. They think that they're evil. Okay. So they said George Bush indicated in Public Law 102-14, 102nd Congress, that the United States of America was founded upon the 7 universal laws of Noah. Well, that's interesting, huh? Then they say, what are the 7 laws of Noah? And it says, the first one, idolatry is forbidden, which of course I mentioned previously. Now, I found another website here that talks about how they believe that Trinitarianism is not forbidden for non-Jews. Under the idolatry claim, this website claims that if you think that, Jesus is a Trinity, that Yahweh is a Trinity, and Jesus is one of them, that you will be decapitated. We don't know that they would even say Trinitarianism is an idol worship. I believe it is, but that doesn't mean that they will. But these 7 laws of Noah, people are trying to say are evil. Do not deny our Father. Do not blaspheme him. Is that evil? That we shouldn't blaspheme our Father, who takes care of us? We shouldn't murder people. Is that evil? We shouldn't engage in illicit sexual relations. Is that an evil law? Do not steal. Is that evil? Do not eat from a live animal. Is that evil? No, I don't think these laws are evil. They're actually found in Genesis, as it says here from passages in Genesis. It's not evil. And it's interesting that Christianity in general is against the Noahide laws. saying that we have to keep the commandments in some way, because Christianity in general teaches that you don't have to keep the commandments to be saved. All you need is faith. So Christianity in general is against the 7 laws of Noah. But our Father actually told us to do these things, at least the first 6. 7th is just establishing the court legal system. And when I researched this the first time, I didn't find anything that said that you would be decapitated for not agreeing that they should have a court system. So long as you're keeping these, you're going to be considered a righteous Gentile. That's how they would regard you. And I have seen that, I've had Muslims tell me that they think of me as, one of the ones that will be saved because you don't actually, agree with the idolatry of Trinitarianism and everything. So yeah, Trinitarianism is idolatry, so it would be under, don't deny our Father and don't blaspheme him and everything. So what's my point? My point is that these laws are not evil. They come from our Father, and if they're put into place, they're put into place by our Father. And it's probably to weed out those who are evil. Christianity is going to be destroyed by our Father. I also spoke about that in my video on Moses and the bronze serpent, where they turned the bronze serpent into an idol and then they smashed it and our Father was pleased. Well, they've turned Jesus into an idol, and when Christianity, that Paulinity is destroyed, our Father is going to be pleased because it leads to abominations and idol worship, and it's going to be gone and he'll be happy. And so that means that I have a completely different view about the Noahide laws than most mainstream Christians. They're terrified of it. I think it's our Father working if they get put into place. So this video has basically been about a lot of different issues I think most people have wrong, because mainstream Christianity is going to be deceived, utterly deceived, and just wrong. It's only going to be those who are following the commandments of our Father who are going to be guided to the truth. Because we love the truth, but the world does not love the truth because it has pleasure in unrighteousness. So this is what started it all. This whole New World Order thing. Our Father put it together. And I found it interesting that this is talking about a new world order based on the ideals of justice and peace. So what if YHWH comes back and he destroys Christianity, and they think he's the anti-Messiah because the Noahide laws are put into effect and people are being beheaded because they're saying Jesus is their God rather than Yahweh. Interesting. People are looking at the New World Order as if it is awful and it's, a one world religion. What if the one world religion is worshiping our Father and actually keeping his commandments? And if you don't, you're outside the kingdom, gnashing your teeth. Yeah, I am not going to be promoting this article about the New World Order pledge to Jews. People don't realize what's actually going on when they have such a hatred towards the Jews. Our Father has blinded them, has blinded Christianity, has blinded Islam. If people wanted the truth, they would find it. He would guide them to the truth. But they didn't want the truth, and so they were guided into lies. The great deception, is already going on. And we have to wonder if we have it backwards. If if the world is going to be deceived, then that must mean that most of the ideas of what is going to happen in these last days and the end times and the messianic kingdom is just going to be completely backwards. Because we've been programmed to expect, an antichrist who is going to stop the sacrifices. But we already know it was Yehoshua who stopped the sacrifices. He's the one who was freeing all the animals in the temple. I'll leave links below to all this information so you can study it out for yourself. And I could be wrong on something, I totally admit that. But if I am, then I'll change my mind. But if I'm not, people need to start realizing that we have to look at what if we're wrong? And what if it goes down this way instead of that way? And we shouldn't be having hatred towards a certain group of people. There should be no hatred towards Christianity or Islam or Judaism. We're supposed to hate lies, and that's okay. But these people are just blind. These people that you see, they're just blind. And if they love the truth, then our Father will be guiding them to more and more truth. So we just pray that they will repent of their sin and be led to the truth. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this, and shalom.